let's get right into it. Today, we're talking directly and urgently about your money. Right now, as you're listening to this, there's a force acting on your finances. It's either quietly building your freedom or it's subtly working against you. And you know the craziest part? The most dominant force in personal finance isn't some highly guarded Wall Street secret. It's not a complex crypto trading algorithm. No, the real issue is that almost nobody takes this incredibly basic concept seriously enough. We are talking about the ultimate engine of wealth, compound interest. By the time we wrap up this explainer, you're going to know exactly how to hijack this mathematical engine to secure your financial future.
Okay, let's dive into this. You've probably heard this quote tossed around a million times. Albert Einstein reportedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Now look, historians love to debate whether he actually said those exact words, but honestly, it doesn't really matter, because the core truth behind that statement remains absolutely undefeated. Once you truly grasp what compounding does to your money over a multi-decade timeline, I guarantee it will permanently alter how you view every single financial choice you make. Seriously, it becomes this lens through which you see every dollar you spend, save, or invest. Most of us know the term, sure, but very few people actually sit down, look at the raw numbers, and realize what it means for their own bank account over 20, 30, or 40 years. When you finally run those equations, the results are literally so startling, you'll wish someone had tied you to a chair and forced you to look at the math decades ago.
Section 1, Anatomy of the Inch.
So let's move past all the motivational cliches and get into the stark reality of how this machine actually operates. We're going to do a plain English breakdown of what's happening under the hood when your money goes to work. A lot of financial advisors love to throw complex jargon at you, but let's strip all of that away right now. This is all about the pure mechanics of wealth generation. The absolute simplest way to unpack compound interest is to contrast it directly with simple interest. With simple interest, you only generate a return on your original baseline deposit. It's a very boring, totally linear process. For example, if you lock up $1,000 at a 6% simple annual interest rate, you're going to pull in exactly $60 every single year. No more, no less, no matter how many decades you leave it there. But with compound interest, it's a whole different ballgame. You pull in a return on your original cash plus all the accumulated interest that is already piled up. So in year one, yeah, you make your $60. But in year two, you are earning interest on $1,060. Every single year, your baseline expands and the interest grows aggressively right along with it.
Let's actually look at those numbers on a chart. We've got the exact same $1,000 investment growing at a 6% annual return, comparing simple interest against compounding over a 40-year timeline. With simple interest, your final total stops at a really uninspiring $3,400. But look at the compound interest side. It explodes that exact same initial deposit into over $10,200. Your original $1,000 multiplied into more than 10 grand, and you didn't add a single extra penny of your own money. At the very beginning, sure, the difference looks completely irrelevant. But over a long enough time horizon, the gap isn't a straight line anymore. It curves upward exponentially. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, gathering more and more snow. This aggressive upward curve is just basic arithmetic at work, and it perfectly demonstrates what people actually mean when they tell you to let your money work for you.
Section 2. The 3 drivers of wealth. Now, compounding isn't magic. It's an engine, and it's driven by 3 very specific inputs: your principal, your rate of return, and time. Understanding where to focus your energy between these 3 changes absolutely everything about your strategy. First off, let's immediately dismantle this myth that you need a massive fortune just to get started. Principal, which is your starting capital, obviously matters. A bigger starting balance gives you a bigger final result. But obsessing over this often tricks people into a state of total paralysis. As the numbers clearly show, even a modest starting amount becomes overwhelmingly powerful if you optimize the other 2 drivers. To understand the second driver, the rate of return, let's imagine a $10,000 investment left to sit for 30 years. At a modest 4% annual return, you end up with roughly $32,400. Now that is a completely passive gain, and it's absolutely better than leaving your cash shoved under a mattress to be eaten alive by inflation. But it doesn't quite capture the explosive nature of the wealth engine we're really talking about here.
Let's move to the next step and see how this builds when we tweak the math just a tiny bit. By securing just a 6% annual return over those exact same 30 years, that final number climbs to about $57,400. That is a massive jump in wealth. You're nearly doubling your final outcome purely by finding a slightly more efficient vehicle for your capital. Your yield has a phenomenal impact over long periods. Think of it as the throttle for your wealth engine. Just pressing down slightly harder gives you way more speed.
And here's where it goes crazy.
If you optimize your investments to reach an 8% annual return, that number skyrockets to approximately $100,600. Notice how just a tiny 2% difference in your annual return completely changes your final outcome by tens of thousands of dollars over 30 years. This perfectly exposes the extreme danger of hidden investment fees. You see, a mutual fund that charges you a 2% annual fee instead of, say, a 0.2% fee isn't just costing you pocket change. It is aggressively and systematically chipping away at your compounding baseline year after year after year. You absolutely must protect your rate of return fiercely.
Section 3. The time paradox. So, we now shift to the most critical and honestly the most counterintuitive variable of them all, time. Time is the ultimate multiplier, but it presents a massive psychological hurdle because the growth is heavily backloaded. Look, the first decade of investing usually looks completely boring. It feels like a slow, unrewarding grind where your money barely seems to be moving at all. Watching $10,000 crawl to $10,600 in year one doesn't exactly feel like a huge victory, right? But you have to understand that while those early stages are underwhelming, the third and fourth decades are mathematically spectacular. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly it illustrates this paradox by comparing two totally different investors. Investor A starts early at age 25. They put in $300 a month for just 10 years, and then they stop contributing completely. Their total out-of-pocket contribution is $36,000. Now, Investor B waits until age 35 to start, but they consistently contribute that same $300 every single month all the way until age 65. That brings their total contribution to a massive $108,000. Assuming an average 7% return for both, Investor A ends up with roughly $567,000, while Investor B ends up with only about $340,000. Think about that for a second. Investor A contributed 3 times less cash out of pocket, but ended up significantly wealthier, simply by starting 10 years earlier.
That brings us to the ultimate rule of personal finance. Starting early is infinitely more powerful than contributing more later. Time beats initial capital every single day of the week, and you simply cannot buy back those lost compounding years. To keep this wealth engine running at absolute maximum velocity, you have got to practice the habit of automatic reinvestment. And whatever you do, never interrupt the curve. Every single time you withdraw funds early to spend them on something you don't need, or you try to time the market, you violently reset your baseline and completely destroy your momentum.
Section 4. The dark side. Debt.
Now, we need to pivot, and I want to give you a very stern, urgent warning here, because this exact same mathematical engine has a lethal dark side when it works against you. The exact same exponential curve that built incredible wealth when it's working for you will completely destroy you if you are on the wrong side of the equation. We are talking about high-interest consumer debt, where the mathematical laws of compounding reverse and literally hunt you down. Credit card balances that compound monthly at sky-high rates are financially devastating because they utilize frequent compounding to accelerate your losses. Let me make this terrifyingly concrete for you. If you have a $5,000 credit card balance compounding monthly at a 20% annual interest rate and you only pay the bare minimums, you are trapped. It can easily take you over 15 years to wipe out that single debt, and it's going to cost you more than $8,000 in interest alone. You end up paying back nearly triple what you originally borrowed because the compound interest is accelerating so much faster than your tiny minimum payments can keep up.
The math does not care whose side it's on. It is completely emotionless and highly efficient. And this is exactly why aggressive debt elimination must always be your absolute top financial priority, way before you even think about investing in the stock market. Think about it this way. Paying off a 20% interest debt is the literal equivalent of securing a guaranteed 20% return on your money. It's completely tax-free and completely risk-free. You will never, ever find a hedge fund manager on earth who can guarantee you a 20% annual return. So take the guaranteed win and kill your high-interest debt immediately.
Section 5. Your Wealth Playbook.
So now that we've mapped out exactly how the engine works and warned you about its lethal dark side, let's transition into your manual for actually controlling this force. We're going to distill everything down into a highly actionable wealth playbook for long-term financial stability. Look, building true wealth doesn't require complex trading algorithms. It just requires you to master a few fundamental, unshakable rules. And this brilliantly illustrates a mental shortcut you can use to track your money's momentum without needing any complex spreadsheets or equations. It's called the Rule of 72, and it is a phenomenal little tool to instantly calculate the power of compounding right in your head. It's super simple. You just divide the number 72 by your expected annual rate of return, and the result is the exact number of years it's going to take to completely double your initial money.
Applying this math shows how terrifyingly accurate this rule is for both investments and debt. Check out the first scenario. At a 6% return, you divide 72 by 6, which tells you your wealth doubles every 12 years. Push that up to an 8% return, and 72 divided by 8 means your money doubles every 9 years. Pretty great, right? But apply to a 24% credit card balance where you're making 0 payments, and 72 divided by 24 reveals that your massive debt will completely double in just 3 short years. It proves, once again, that compounding is a powerful double-edged sword that cuts with incredible speed in either direction.
To summarize your core actionable choices, you absolutely must internalize these 4 pillars of wealth creation. First, start immediately. As we proved earlier, time easily beats initial capital, so the best possible time to begin is right now today. Second, watch the hidden fees carefully. They are sneaky, and they will aggressively destroy your baseline portfolio value over time if you aren't paying attention. Third, kill your high-interest debt first. Recognize that the mathematics of debt works with exact, lethal force against you. And fourth, never interrupt compounding unnecessarily. Consistency and long-term patience will always beat market timing or perceived financial sophistication. Remember, this engine rewards absolute discipline, not complex, fancy trading tactics.
The math behind compound interest is already happening in your life right now, whether you acknowledge it or not. It's basically an unstoppable force of nature in the financial world. The people who ultimately win are the ones who stay highly disciplined through those slow, unrewarding early phases, and absolutely refuse to interrupt the math. So I'm going to leave you with this final critical question. Will you step up and let the math work for you,